Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk animated shows and movies here, especially Miraculous Ladybug and The Owl House. Find everything about us at overlyanimated.com. I'm your host, Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Aly Martin.
Hello.
And Beatriz Mourad.
Hello.
We are finally talking about Arcane today. Highly requested podcast topic. Specifically, we will be what's on the docket is we're going to be talking about what makes Arcane special. Arcane is a video game adaptation, and then give some of the things on our Season 2 wish list for Arcane. As mentioned, we are overly animated, talking about animated shows and movies. I suspect there might be people checking this out who have not listened to us before, because Arcane is extremely popular, my understanding. Probably one of the most popular animated shows the past, 10 years or something. Welcome if you have listening and you've not watched much animated stuff. Maybe we'll give some recommendations on other stuff to check out. I don't know. We'll see if we can work all that in. But that's kind of the introduction. I don't think we need to really introduce Arcane too much. A League of Legends show on Netflix. One season's out now. It's been a few months since it came out, so we're going to keep this more of like an overview type of discussion. Probably not get into as many specifics, but whatever we want to get into, I think is completely fine to get into as well. So I think, to start off here, since this is a League of Legends show, let's go over our backgrounds with Arcane and like if we have any League of Legends knowledge as kind of a preemptive thing, so people know where we're coming from. Aly, how much League of Legends have you played?
0, thank God. No,
thank God. Okay, don't
full offense to League.
Don't say that would be the first thing.
One of my best friends is a League person. My knowledge of like actual gameplay is actually not super limited because he's made me watch tournaments, so I kind of understand strategy, but like not really. My understanding of League lore is 0, except for what I learned from Arcane, and I appreciate learning from there and not the game, because I mean, I don't know about most people, but what I learn about lore from a game that's like a first-person shooter or whatever point of view League is from, it's never satisfying, and it never comes out in a way that's understandable to me. So going in fresh for me has been exciting. And I know a lot of like fans of the game have really been just majorly, it's not a word, overall positive on the show. So that also makes me happy. But yeah, I'm not playing League. Not yet. Maybe Season 2 will force me, but I'm clean so far.
Clean so far. Okay, so coming in clean, but you have some knowledge of League of Legends from other people.
Yeah,
Beatriz,
like I knew who Jinx was.
Okay,
basically.
Yeah, I didn't know that, so you got more than me. Beatriz, what about you?
I just need to first state League is a MOBA game. It's not an FPS game. I just needed to state that.
Yeah,
right.
I knew. It was
and yeah, I started playing it 2020 because I didn't have a PC, so I could only play games with my friends on Mac, and that was one of the few games. So I started playing that. Anyway, my friends though have been playing it for like years. So I had been playing it for a year. I had no idea even Arcane was showing up. I think the most I knew about League was KDA before that. But yeah, so I have really a lot of experiences really in ARAM, not really in Summoner's Rift. But I have watched some, League tournaments and stuff, and that's always fun. But don't ask me how to build a character or anything, because learning League through ARAM is like the worst possible way. And yeah, in terms of lore, the League games don't really have much lore unless you play Legends of Runeterra, which I just recently started a couple months ago. But that's, I think, what makes Arcane so great is that you didn't have to know about League to watch it. And so, yeah, I mean, there are some people who didn't even know, like, who've played League for years and didn't even know that, the confirmation that Vi and Jinx are sisters came from Arcane. It didn't come from the game, if that makes sense. So like the game itself, it's like it gives you, there is lore, there are places, and it shows you things. And so if you look for it, you find it. But there are even some things that's just hinted at or suggested, or it's like something like people will know, yeah, Jinx and Vi, there's some connection there, but we don't know exactly what it is. We think they're sisters, but we don't know exactly what happened. And so, and this is with people who played it for a super, super long time. So yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, we maybe if someone comes into the show not knowing anything of the game, that's okay, because the game itself isn't really a story-driven game.
Yeah, that was my understanding. There's not a lot of lore that they're basing off of here with Arcane. So
like there's lore, but it's not like there's lore. Like the way I say is there's lore, but there's no story.
Yeah,
is the way I say it.
Right, there's like a framework.
Yeah. So there's and it's very rich, and there's a lot of it. But in terms of an actual cohesive story, in terms of like these characters are people that like you get to know, there isn't much of that.
Okay, cool. So Beatriz will be our LOL expert.
I don't think I've qualified.
You said a bunch of terms I didn't know. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Are
So
the expert.
yeah, I've not played League of Legends. I play games, generally familiar with it. Probably I've had friends play, but I don't have much familiarity as either. So I'm was coming in clean to Arcane. So now that being said, let's kind of talk about what we particularly liked about Arcane. I think a lot of people see Arcane as a very special show. So what's in particular, what did you connect with the most? What do you think kind of makes it so special, Aly?
Definitely the art and production value just as a whole. It's insane. Obviously, I mean, we're going to talk about it at length, I assume, but it's like it just makes the bar rise on a lot of different levels. I like that a lot of artists were it's seemingly in charge of a lot of stuff on the show, which doesn't happen a lot in the West. I mean, depending on the studio.
Well, it was made in France, so
this is
technically
the
it
West.
Yeah,
oh,
it's the
never
West.
mind. Okay, America then. But I mean, I started it secondly for the art. I'll be honest, that's one of the main reasons. But that's what sticks with me the most is like the direction. And I mean, like Beatrice said, the fact that it's like there's a lot of lore in the game, but not a lot of story. I think that really works well with an adaptation like this. So I'm excited to see where it goes. That's also what's keeping me on board because, like we said, the game doesn't have like a story or just one. And I assume they're going to do a bunch of different ones, not just in Piltover or something like that. So, but I mean, the characters are also interesting. I feel like I don't know enough to say that that's like my main reason for sticking around. And it is special, but it doesn't stand out very much to me yet. But yeah, I get probably the art is the number one thing.
Okay. Beatriz, what about you?
I just want to very quickly clarify, like the animation was done by Fortiche, who's a French animation studio, but like writing, all that stuff was at Riot, which is in the States. So it is like an American French production. But in terms of the show, I think it was just what really stood out to me and what I really appreciated is that it was a show that like didn't treat its audience as silly. It just had faith that the audience was intelligent, and it took source material and treated it with respect, and was like it was a show made out of love, both for what it was making, but also for the audience that they had faith would come in and embrace it. I guess I'm just kind of tired of animation just be like, at least I'm tired of animated content that is made for the masses. I want animated content that's maybe made for a mature audience. And this was that. It was just a show. It's like, to me, it's a masterpiece from the storytelling to the animation to the music to everything on all levels. This was just from the voice acting. It's an amazing work of art. And I'm just so happy that I got to experience it.
Wow. Okay. Yes. I think you speak for many people who have been very impassionately talking about how much they love the show. Yeah, it is a rare Western animated show that is a non-comedy adult show. And even more rare, it is 40 minutes runtime, which it's almost unheard of before, like last year. So yeah, I think hopefully, at the very least, we'll talk about like takeaways. Like hopefully, this inspires more of these types of shows because clearly people will connect with them. I mean, I think Arcane is one of Netflix's most popular things past half year. Like really impressive how much people have connected with it. We talk about a lot of animated shows here. I've watched so many things. I definitely think the main thing that stands out with this show is the animation and all the production values. I think it's clear that a lot more time and money was put into this show compared to anything else we've ever covered on this podcast. We're going to talk about that in more detail, but it's just like very quickly clear when watching Arcane, and even more clear when you see some of the standout sequences throughout the season. And yeah, I definitely really do love all of the artwork on the show. I think the other thing, I guess, for me, so I am probably lower on this show than you guys and most people. So just as an FYI, we're not going to focus on negatives, but, maybe I'll seem less impassioned. I don't know. We'll see. But one thing that really does stand out to me is like everything in Arcane is like good, like at least generally good, if not very good. Like every character, every plot line, and there's so many of them. And I think that's like, other than the art, is like the most impressive thing to me. Like everything it tries to do is just, it's all good. It's a first season of a show. That's very impressive. The fact that it hits on basically everything. So yeah, I mean, it tries to do a lot of things. I think it stays within a reasonable scope more so than some other shows, which we'll talk about later. I think it's kind of purview is good. What it tries to tackle is pretty good, and it succeeds in everything that it's doing. And clearly, yeah, a lot of care is put into it, and a lot of resources. And I think what that makes a particularly special product in terms of specific things. Personally, I love Echo. He's my favorite character. Talk about more Echo in season 2 Wishlist. I'll bring up V and Kate as a part of the show I do really like. We're definitely going to get more into the romance there. I like V as a main character.
Do you mean Vi?
Vi.
Kate, yeah, is she called Kate in the show? Or is this
Caitlin?
Like a couple times.
Yeah, because I know all the fans call her that, right? Yeah. So I think we could get into more characters. I don't know how much detail we're going to get into, but Aly, how about other things? We kept it pretty general to start with, but what other things?
I don't know. You guys kind of covered most of the. I mean, we could dig into all the general things we talked about, but you guys pretty much covered it.
Okay.
Like the standouts.
Yeah. Beatriz,
like if we're talking about specific scenes, then I could get really into a few, but we'll get there eventually.
I mean, I'll bring up. So, okay, how about the bridge scene in episode 7? I think that
sequence is the best.
Yeah, the bridge scene definitely stands out to me. I think that's like incredibly notable. See, I rewatched that today again. So good. I rewatched the finale today, just the last episode. Which was a weird experience because the episode starts off and I'm like, I didn't remember that Jace murdered a child. I forgot about
Yeah.
I was like, what? How much happens in this show? Like, okay, Jace murdered this kid. Okay, let's continue. Anyway, yeah, Beatriz, what other elements come into mind?
I think something to me that also stood out from the show is that because it's not just characters from the game that are present, it's also like some new original characters specifically created for Arcane, and a lot of times maybe you'd expect a show to just like that any like original character doesn't really matter as much or isn't as it's either like one of two opposites. Either the original, like the characters that are actually in the game are forgotten, or of the thing that is being adapted are forgotten, and the original characters are given too much importance, or you'll have the opposite effect where it's like only the characters that are based off the thing that's being adapted are super important, and the original characters aren't really interesting or complex and are just there to be there or to be like killed off because it doesn't matter. They don't have like the plot armor type of situation. But I'm glad that wasn't the case in Arcane. Like Mel in particular is a character that really stands out to me as someone who isn't in the game. Savika as well is someone like there's just a lot of characters. Silco isn't necessarily a character in the game. So there are just a bunch of characters that are original for the show, but were given the same amount of respect. And that to me was like awesome and exciting.
Nice. Yeah, and I think in general, just the like process of the adaptation, definitely one of
Yeah.
the most notable things, and we're going to dive into that more in a minute. But yeah, let's talk a little more about the animation and the production values. I think this is the main thing you hear people talk about, in addition to everything else. But I think it stands out so much. We mentioned Fortiche did the animation, relatively new studio who did, I believe, one series before this, and has done some other, and other than that has done like music videos and shorts and stuff. Yeah, I mean, really impressive. I don't know how to describe. I'm not an expert in the technical terms but I don't know how to exactly describe the animation. But definitely like a realistic kind of style that I think a lot of people connect with. Watching Genta, I was really struck by the backgrounds. Were absolutely beautiful, kind of like 2D backgrounds behind the 3D animation, which it blends so incredibly well. But and then so like the general animation is really good, but then they also have specific sequences where they kind of go all out and get into a more stylistic. A lot of times whenever there's fights, like the bridge scene, there's a scene in the finale, which a fight, more of a kind of a stylistic, sometimes like more of a sketch or breaking down the animation style. I love that type of stuff. I think the show does that so well. Aly, what do you love from how the show looks?
You covered it. I don't have any other thoughts on
any specific scenes stand out as we're talking about this?
Well, you mentioned the bridge scene. I always think of the whatever song that is when Powder or Jinx, Jesus, lights up the device or whatever it is. That sequence always sticks out to me because the way the music is intertwined with the animation is also amazing to me. Not just the score, but the songs they pick. Sometimes it felt a little out of place, like the fight scene with Savika and Vi. I mean, it didn't even really feel out of place because it came from a jukebox, but I don't know, other scenes.
Yeah, that scene was really good. Today.
Trying to think of anything. I mean, earlier in the, like from Act 1, I'm just trying to think of something specific other than the like explosion scene. Cause
yeah, I mean,
really
the explosion at the end of the episode 3, that whole sequence, so gorgeous.
Very pretty and terrifying, but yeah, the colors, the way they do fabric and hair. I mean, it always impresses me when you see like Disney do that, and this just took it to another level by making it like you said. I'm not an expert either on the terms, but like it looks like real sometimes from far away enough. Also the oil and water scene. I want to point out something that I saw someone else point out, that you can see reflections in the water. Like that attention to detail is insane.
Nice. Yeah, the style almost looks rotoscoped when you kind of first see it. It's almost like, are we drawing, like, is this like one of those video games where it's like a real person and we're going to render them, who's voicing them, we're going to render them in the game style. But like, it's not, it just kind of looks like that, but better.
I have maybe a question. I don't know, Beatriz, if you can answer this. Do you know if there was like any mocap for this? I'm assuming there wasn't.
I don't think so. I don't. Like from all the like, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, okay, like, if there is, like, I wouldn't be, like, obviously there's, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they'll, like, if you'll have animators, like, record themselves doing something and for reference and stuff. So, in that sense, but, like, a full-on,
somebody wearing a suit.
Maybe not. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if there is, and I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't. I don't know if it's, like, full-on, like, Last of Us, where it's fully that, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they, like, for a few bits and pieces, they might have done it.
At the very least, it looks like it, right? Like, if that would be a thing. Yeah. Even though it's clearly not the kind of main tactic. Beatriz, any other aspects or scenes you want to bring up?
Well, in terms of, like, aspects, like, just something that just really stood out to me was just, it's those small twitches of the face, like, changes in expression. It will be like it's so hard to describe, but it's just like, where, say, someone will scrunch up their eyebrow just for a millisecond and then it'll disappear, or like squint their eyes or flare their nostrils. And it's those little things that last a second but give so much to the movement of the character and give such a lively feel in a way that I don't often see, because usually it's either over exaggerated, like, because of the style of animation, it has to be over exaggerated. So, like, the fact that they were allowed to use those very subtle expressions that really we take for granted, seeing ourselves in real life, that we don't really pay attention to, but the fact that they took the time and care to do that just made everything just seem all the more realistic. And in terms of specific scenes, there's so many.
Too many.
But something I guess would be like, I don't know, like I guess like when Vi and Powder are like after everything, that first act, and like Powder's just like ugly crying, you know? And like it's just like it is so weird to say, but like the fact that you see like spit flying from people's mouths when they're screaming and stuff, it's like, or like when they're getting punched in the face, like you see like it's stupid, but it's like
real.
But it definitely gives it that feel. But I guess like big moments are just usually it's the ending of the acts. So like when Powder's explosion goes off, for me like the dinner scene, like before the explosion, but just the entire just for the sake of Jinx's character arc, like the entire dinner scene with Vi and Caitlyn and Silco, that whole thing. And so, okay, sorry, not to like keep listing them, but for me, a scene that super stands out is our first introduction to Jinx after the time skip and her relationship with Silco. So like her like sticking the thing, doing the eye thing. The first time we see that done, that tells us so much about, like, that scene does so much in such little time, and just like so many other scenes, it's just super efficient in telling us through body language and through action the relationships between different characters. Like that scene in particular for me really sold the father-daughter dynamic. This guy really trusts her and has faith in her. He trusts her so much that he's willing to let her jab his eyeball with a needle. You know what I mean? It's like those things are just, from a animation perspective, from a story perspective, like they just all work so well. And yeah, so there's so many of anyone, depending on who they love, like I'm sure someone can find something about Victor, something about Jace, something about Mel that they can just go like, I love this about them, I love that, and pick out just a specific scene and give you the same type of breakdown because they're all just done so well.
Nice. Yeah, I agree all about the expressions and everything with the characters. Yeah, and we can continue talking about this as I want to bring up some of the like so that's like what's so good about it. Well, how about why is it so good? So a lot of people talking about like why aren't more shows like this? A lot of kind of casual anime people on Twitter. So I want to kind of bring up some of the conclusions we've learned from people in the animation industry talking about this, which is Arcane is fantastic and looks so incredible, and it's like people did do a particularly great job on the show. It's just like every other show is not capable of this. Arcane is capable of it and is great on top of it, but it's like Arcane almost certainly, we don't think I've seen specific numbers. Arcane certainly has a lot more money put into the show than literally any other show we've talked about on this podcast, literally. Any other TV show in Western animation history. Also maybe Eastern animation, I don't know, but this is definitely has a bigger budget than most animes, like almost every anime. Except for like movies, maybe some high budget movies, but we're talking like that area of money because them being able to do what they're doing with the animation style, and given the time that they're able to put into it, I don't have the exact tweets on hand, but I saw people talking about how Arcane is like maybe, for example, as an estimate, like several months storyboarded per episode, whereas a normal show only has like a few weeks. So it's just like so much more time and effort is able to be put into this show. So I think that's kind of a little bit of a frustrating thing, seeing people like, because we cover all these great shows. It's like, why doesn't everything look like Arcane? Well, it should. Like, let's put more money into shows.
That's what I was trying to get at before, not to bash anything. Just why doesn't anything else look like this?
Yeah, and it's like the other shows we covered, they're doing the best they can. They literally cannot get to this level of detail. Like there's just not enough money and time put into it.
Put more money into animation.
Yeah, because
convince people. That's the thing. We got to convince people that animation isn't for children. You have to convince people that, and not only that it isn't for children, but even if it is directed at children, that
everyone
it can
enjoy
like
it.
that. Not just because people know everyone can enjoy it. There's a reason why like the only like rare movies that have like 99% on Rotten Tomatoes tend to be like Pixar movies and Disney movies. Like everyone can enjoy it, but like it's more about you have to convince people that even if it's something everyone can enjoy, that's something that everyone wants to watch and is willing. Like the reason Arcane is able to have this money is because there's a game that they have that makes them so much money.
Yeah, and that company was willing to put in all this money.
Exactly. It's kind of like when we see like Red Bull like having all these different sports teams. Like at the end of the day, they're there to like market Red Bull. You know what I mean? So like there is a completely separate thing that is a product that is generating money, and they have so much of it that they're now able to they're capable of doing things with it to promote said product. Like that's what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think that's like the best thing about Arcane's huge popularity is like, hopefully this does more than any other show help inspire those animations, not just for kids. And animation can be, we can have these big shows that you can put a lot of money into. And I mean, how do you not look at Arcane's success if you're these other streaming platforms and want to kind of replicate this in some way?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah, and yes, I do want to mention the 40-minute runtime again, because again, before Invincible last year, I literally had not really seen that for an animated show. And then we got Invincible and Arcane, two incredible shows. By the way, if you watched Arcane, haven't checked out Invincible, it's a recommendation. But the 40-minute runtime really helps. The show does so many different things, and it's really only able to do all that with its larger runtime, which is also a budget thing. Like, yeah. You know, you only have so much money. You can only make a 22-minute thing.
Yeah.
But just print more money.
Yeah, let's print more money. No, but like honestly, animation can have budgets of a show like a Game of Thrones and these other epic fantasy shows. You can do that, and I'm sure Arcane wasn't even have that much money put into it as those types of shows, and it still looked this incredibly good. I also do want to note, despite Arcane's huge budget, there were definitely artists working on Arcane that were severely underpaid. So definitely want to make that clear. So, and currently, in the US, animators are fighting for a new, union, deal. And hopefully everyone can get, paid higher wages from that, because animators are definitely severely underpaid, even on this show. So, kind of remarkable that even on Arcane, people are not making what they should have made.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I just, and in terms of like, okay, so this is the pinnacle of what shows can look like so far. That being said, there are other shows we talk about that look incredibly wonderful. If you have a Netflix subscription from watching Arcane, how about Glitch Techs and Hilda on the same platform? These are kids shows, so you might be less appealing to you if you're listening. But they look incredible on much less money, but like the incredible styles. I think people have so many comments like, why can't everything be like this? Like, I just think people like the style too, like the animation style. Like, I understand people love that it looks so good, but I think people just want the realistic style too, you know, like these other great shows that we talk about they have more of like, I don't know, abstract, more childish kind of styles. I think
more cartoony.
Cartoony.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But I don't think it's, if people say, why can't shows look like this or be like this? I don't think what they're talking about is, why can't Hilda have this gruesome, bloody kind of style? I don't think that's what they mean. I think what they mean is, why can't there be more shows directed at a modern audience that isn't, mature audience that isn't a comedy? Like, that's that's what I get from this. Is, why aren't there more shows like this? Maybe not necessarily the animation quality, but why can't there be more shows that have this kind of scope, that have this kind of seriousness, and that aren't also making fart jokes and stuff like that? I think that's what when people say that, maybe because they don't quite understand how, like, maybe they're not putting in the right words, because maybe they don't know exactly how to express it. But I think when they say that, is it that they want Hilda to look like Arcane? It's that they want more shows like Arcane, as in more mature shows that are actually exciting and not just satire, dry humor comedy.
I also think it can be a style thing too. It's not like they want it to look like Arcane, but they want it to have like more detail. Like you mentioned Hilda, like it looks amazing. The quality is fantastic, but like it doesn't give like wrinkles or sometimes I don't know, like fabric blowing in the wind as like seamlessly as something like Arcane does. So I think it could be both. It's definitely more of what you were focusing on, Beatrice. Like it should just have more like a higher production quality, but the style of I think it's a style thing too. I don't know, because a lot of cartoons that maybe are geared towards kids but can also be adult, like I mean Invincible. It's kind of I love Invincible, but it just looks like a Young Justice or like
Yeah,
not
maybe
really
except
Korra,
during
but,
some
like,
fight scenes where it really stands out.
Yeah. I just don't think Hilda was like the proper show to add to for this conversation. A better one would have been.
I'm not trying to
like
compare. I'm just bringing up a
Castlevania or
recommendation.
something. For like, don't
Yeah,
worry.
we're gonna get
I
into
just am
Castlevania.
saying, coming from Arcane, and if you haven't heard this podcast, we're just letting you know. You should not. We should not recommend you Hilda. We should be recommending you something like Castlevania, because.
but also go watch Hilda.
Go watch Hilda because it's great, but like if someone wants something like Arcane, they should not go watch Hilda.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say it's similar, but if you want shows that look great, if that's really meaningful to you, I do agree that probably a lot of those people really just want the adult shows. But maybe there's a lot of people that just want the incredible animated shows. I think it can be both. So Final Space, by the way, another one that looks really incredible. But it is a comedy. But yeah, I mean the best comparisons are ones that I was holding off on bringing up because it's for our next topic, which we can kind of continue this discussion as we're talking about video game shows and video game adaptations. Where interestingly, I guess I don't know if we had like an original adult. How about Undone on Amazon? Okay.
Oh yeah.
An original kind of adult animated show, because everything else is like an adaptation, right? Like even Invincible Invincible's an adaptation, and these other shows we're about to bring up, Dota, Dragon's Blood, Castlevania. I also have on the list Carmen Sandiego, more of a kid show, and Cuphead's coming up. I assume will be more of a kid show. I don't know, actually. I don't know much about Cuphead. Yeah, so I think that's interesting that we really only get these types of shows with adaptations. That's also kind of true of live action as well, to some extent. But anyway, Arcane, part of a recent trend of adapting video games into animated shows, especially adult kind of violent ones, comparing it to a Castlevania or Dota Dragon's Blood, I will say those shows are much bloodier and violent than Arcane. So I think that's interesting. Like Arcane, I think it is violent, but that's something that's notable about it to me too, is it's not like, it's not a gory show,
Yeah.
Whereas Castlevania is like a gory show. Like that's definitely a style of adult animated show now, is you get your gory, action shows. Castlevania is the prime example for me for that.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I think of that. But we're seeing these shows. I do think we want to compare it to Castlevania. That was another big, hugely popular one. I think probably less people have seen Dota Dragon's Blood, that came out last year as well. Just very notable because it's also based on another MOBA that was very popular that a lot of people think of right alongside League of Legends. So if you could check that out. But all of these, probably all less successful than Arcane in terms of what they're setting out to do. I mean, Castlevania is a great show. So I don't want to disparage it too much. But what is it about Arcane that, and maybe the success of these other shows to a lesser extent, but what is it about these shows that they've done well in terms of adapting a video game? What comes to mind? Like, I'll start off, and then you guys can tell me whether you agree. So, I feel like what all three of those shows do well is like, we talked about this, the mythology of the game. It's only like a framework for the show, and I think the show goes in like whatever direction it wants to, which I think is true of all of these shows. It's like, take the characters, but Castlevania it does whatever, it does whatever it wants with its narrative. It's really not trying to adapt the games. It's like, this is a show set in the world of this game, but we're going to do like an original story within that. And whatever makes the most sense for the show in terms of narrative and characters. And I think this is something that we've been honing into with a few different shows now, and I really like this as a direction for these adaptations.
I mean, yes, but I think at the same time, I haven't played Castlevania, so I can't speak about Castlevania, but at least in terms of League, I think the reason you're able to tell an original story just using the lore as the framework is because I mentioned, like, there is no story in League, right? So, like, for instance, if you're adapting like I know that there's going to be a Last of Us live action adaptation on HBO or something that they're working on, but it's like that is going to be much, much harder to pull off because that's such a story-driven video game. It's so any changes you make to it,
people are going to be
fans
angry.
are going to know. The fans are going to know. They're either not going to like it or maybe they'll like it, but there's always going to be some change because you have to make changes to an adaptation or else it wouldn't be called an adaptation. And when it's based on a story, people latch onto a story and like they are protective of the story and they love that experience so much. So not only do you have to win the fans over with those changes you make, but you have to like make sure that people that are new to it don't get lost. You can't just assume that everyone knows it, but you also can't like any changes you make to maybe accommodate to the newcomers might upset the fans, the original fans. So it's really hard when there's like an actual story already written. But because with Arcane in particular, there was no story. There were bits and pieces. Like, yeah, maybe Vi and Jinx are sisters. Maybe they're related, but we don't know why they hate each other, what actually went down, like how they're related, what's going on. Like that, none of that was explained. We knew that Vi and Kate were like had some sort of partnership, but no one knew how they became partners. No one knew anything of the sort. We didn't know about how Victor becomes what he becomes in the game. I'm not going to say much more than that. People who have seen him in the game will know what I'm talking about, but this is telling us how. And so like how did Piltover and Jean come to be? Like Zahn come to be? Like none of that was explained or told. So by having that freedom to tell it, like won't upset anyone. So they have a freedom that other games don't have in that sense. Like if you're going to adapt Breath of the Wild, it's going to be very hard. Or if you're just going to make a Zelda game, like if you're just going to make a Zelda game into a show, which one are you picking? The people who like another one aren't going to like it. If you're going to do something new, okay, cool. But some people wanted you to adapt the original stuff. It's a mess. It's really, really hard. I mean, adapting a book is hard because adapting a book to a movie is super hard. Imagine adapting a video game, which is even longer sometimes. It's hard. So, yeah.
But Victor hype, I didn't know he's turning into something. Oh man, I'm excited.
Don't look it up. Don't
I'm not
Google
gonna look
Victor.
It up. I won't spoil
Don't
it.
like people who don't want anything. Just don't like. If you don't want spoilers for some of these characters, don't play League because how they are in League is different to how they are now.
Interesting. I wanted to mention Breath of the Wild, by the way, basically has an animated show within it.
Exactly.
So I should note that a lot of these games have like many cutscenes that are just animated, and we don't talk about them in this podcast because we're focused on like shows and movies specifically, but there's a lot of like actual, other than the fact that games are basically animated anyway, there's a lot of like literal like hand-drawn animated, computer hand-drawn, like, and Breath of the Wild is gorgeous, and that's my favorite part of that game is a lot of those cutscenes.
Same for me with The Last of Us.
Speaking of The Last of Us, I was going to say, like, so what should this HBO show do? This is, like, kind of a tangent, but Beatriz, do you think that they should take their own direction from the story? No. I definitely think they're going to just adapt the game, but, like, should they not do that?
No, they should. Like, that's the thing. It's like when you because the thing is, the story is so great. Like, you have to adapt it. Like, why would you, like, The Last of Us is what it is because of its story and because of its visuals, but, like, it's not, like, they're not... this isn't like how do I say this? Like, that's what makes The Last of Us Last of Us. Like, people, when it came out, were talking about the story and we're talking about the characters. If you decide to do like a new, like if you're doing something, if you decide to do a completely new thing with, it's like, well, then just make an original zombie show. No, they're going to adapt the story. That's what they have to do. It's just, can they do it given the time constraints difference? Like, and will it be, like how they go about it is, I can't say, but they have to adapt the story. They can't not.
Yeah, I agree. I think, though, that, and this can tie it back to Arcane, I think they should not be afraid to make changes that better suit the show, like the format of telling a TV show. There's episodes. You got to do this thing earlier, later. Maybe we're going to scrap this thing. So if it's Arcane, look, maybe we end up, we're starting to tell the story of Victor going, I don't even know, going in some direction. Maybe we end up in a different place because it makes more sense. Like, I think, like, have, probably related, but maybe slightly different. Like, have freedom to, like, make changes, I think, that fit, because the TV show is just so much of a different format, regardless whether you're a story intensive video game or not.
And I think that, but here's the thing also that's working in Arcane's favor that The Last of Us doesn't have. League of Legends has different skins, has different universes using their characters, have different things. So all they have to do is say, Arcane is its own universe. Here are the skins for the characters. It's its own world. They can do whatever they want. Because how many characters in League have their own different, like characters in League will have different skins, and that skin relates to a different universe where they're Star Guardians, where they're like the Casanova skins or whatever. There's so many different things. Like there's like the Battle Academia skin where like all the characters are like, not all of them, some of them are in like a school setting. So like one like I don't know, I'm just thinking of like Leona, who is like this like sun warrior goddess, not a goddess, but sun warrior, and she's like whatever, she has a huge shield. And in the school, she's like still has her shield, but she has like super and her hair is blue and it's whatever. What I'm trying to say is League has different universes within League itself. And because of that, they can easily go in Arcane, they have their own thing. So they even within the framework, the freedom within the framework of League, they are free to do whatever they want in Arcane. Whereas with with Last of Us, there is no bubble universes. There's no like alternate timelines. It's literally just a story of a guy and a young girl trying to survive a zombie apocalypse. That's literally what it is. There is no like, oh, like the what if situation or maybe this or maybe that. So like, and I'm not saying that they, as I mentioned, like changes are going to happen. You can't faithfully 100% adapt things frame by frame from video game to screen. There's not enough time. It doesn't make sense. Like you mentioned, it's a different medium, but it has way less freedom than Arcane. And it's not fair to compare the two because they're completely different situations.
Yeah. So you mentioned Star Guardians. I was about to be like, let's talk about this now, but okay, we'll wait because I think we can wrap up. Like Arcane is particularly well suited for adaptation. Yeah. So I agree. That being said, okay, let's bring in Dota Dragon's Blood. Season 2 just came out on Netflix. I've seen it. We're not going to talk in depth at all, but I just want to say that is a good show. I think again you need to keep in mind that show has much less resources put into it clearly than even though it's gorgeous than Arcane. That being said, watching Dota 2, it just made me really appreciate Arcane more. I will say. They've spoiled us. They've spoiled us. Yeah. The thing with Dota 2 is I was just so confused what was happening. So I was like, wow, Arcane is, I've never know nothing about League of Legends mythology. And Arcane has all these like complicated story and characters. And I think it presents it in a really coherent way. Mm-hmm. That's like underrated how well Arcane does all of this. Everything kind of basically makes perfect sense. Like, sure, I don't know exactly what these dumb hex cubes are or anything, but like whatever. Like, it's in terms of like I know what each part of the world is and where everything's coming from, at least in terms of what's important to the show. And Arcane's particularly doing that well, and it is a challenging thing to do, as we see with some other shows. Castlevania is interesting as a video game adaptation. We mentioned that's more gory. I think Castlevania also does a good job of making everything coherent. Aly, what do you think in terms of and any kind of comparisons, any things you like that Arcane does better as an adaptation than Castlevania, or Castlevania does better?
I haven't played Castlevania as a game either, so I can't speak to it. But yeah, I mean, I also really can't speak to the League adaptations because I haven't played it either. But it just makes more sense to do something original when like a game doesn't have a story, like Beatriz keeps talking about. It's much easier and more rewarding, I feel like, for fans of the game and just new fans coming in. I mean, I like Castlevania a lot, but I didn't play the game. I don't know if there's a lot of differences. I mean, I'm sure there are, but yeah. I mean, we talked about The Last of Us too. That's like you guys both covered literally everything I wanted to say, but the same thing applies for this movie, Uncharted.
Yeah.
From the video games that they're adapting, and I feel like they're doing a terrible job because they're changing so much of the story. Like they're basically cramming 4 games into one, it seems like. So something like that. Like if it's story driven, it's just people are going to have complaints if you just change anything. I mean, not everybody is, but people are who know the original.
Yeah. I love Tom Holland, but I
love him to death. He's going to be great, but he's not Drake.
He's not.
He's too tiny.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom. You have enough money. I'm not gonna actually say sorry. Take it back.
You're also dating Zendaya, so
yeah.
I'm not gonna say
say anything.
He's doing fine. He's doing fine. Okay.
You're fine.
One other point I want to bring up, kind of wrap this up, is in terms of a fantasy show too. I think it's interesting to consider Arcane.
Yeah.
Arcane is like a hard fantasy show. So first of all, I like the approach that Arcane does, where it's more localized. We stay in this one location. Dota 2 really goes everywhere pretty quickly. Honestly, I think like Ruby does this really well too in the beginning, where like we get to know one. By the way, Arcane is good Ruby. That's my take. Arcane is good Ruby.
That's a hot take.
If
It's
you're
literally
doing
nothing like Ruby, though.
well, how about that? Here's the comparison. We have a huge world, probably in terms of Arcane.
Sure.
A huge new fantasy world. Establish this one place very well, and the characters in this one place, and then we can go to other places.
Okay, but I don't think it's like okay. It's not saying like Arcane is good Ruby. It's just Arcane's great fantasy, and Ruby is Ruby.
Okay, that was thank you for the last part. But, yeah, okay, and then other thing in terms of a fantasy show. That was one thing I was thinking. The other thing is like I think it's probably really hard to do epic fantasy with animation as a medium because we've seen shows like Dota 2 and Genlock second season where you just kind of have to rush through everything.
Your voice, I'm sorry.
I just am afraid to mention it. You just have to rush through everything because you just aren't given time. It's like, oh, here's the season. We don't know if you're getting another one. There's one season. You have so much time and money. Okay, we're just gonna like rush through everything. So it's either that or Arcane is like one of the rare shows that probably is going to get as much time as it wants to tell its story. But the thing is, season 2 is probably not going to come out for another year, if not more than that. So it's like, it's going to be a long time. It takes forever to tell this epic story. So it's not really in live action because animation is just harder to make. It's easier to tell. Like here's so many years. We're going to tell the story in 5-7 years or something. Like, I'm interested to see how Arcane handles it. Most, if not any show is not being given the like, purview, the clearance to like do whatever they want and how much ever time they want. So this is a really interesting experiment too, as an animated show. It's
in this very unique situation where they're just allowed to make it and take the time they need to make it Riot has mentioned because of the success of Arcane that they're like, yeah, we're looking into doing other stuff too. Like this is just the beginning of like our stepping stone into making story-driven things. And like, what a stepping stone. But like it's a very unique situation where like the show itself is not reliant on the profit on making money, if that makes sense. Like it doesn't need like they're like because of the success of League, Riot is able to take full control of Arcane. They're not working with a Hollywood studio because usually like the Warcraft movie that comes to mind, where usually video game studios go, you know what, we have to work with Hollywood, we have to work with someone else, they'll make the movie because we don't know what to do. Riot went, no, we'll make our own stories, we know how to tell stories, we'll make our story, we'll see if we fail on our terms. But they're allowed to do that because they're already have the successful product on the side. So it's kind of like there's pressure for Arcane to be amazing, but in a way it's like it was allowed to fail, if that makes sense. Whereas with other shows, they aren't allowed to fail. They don't have the luxury of being like, you can take your time. You have like and a show that comes to mind for me that was like is She-Ra, in that it was given a set number of seasons. It was like, you have these number of seasons, X amount of episodes to tell your story. And then you'll finish it. Here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end. Go. And they did. They did what they needed to do to tell this story. And they told it well and had a beginning, middle, and end. And there was no like getting the rug pulled from under them. You know what I mean? And that's like a luxury that not necessarily that's not unique to Arcane, but also Arcane's unique in and of itself. But when a show is given that time, they can do it. When they're not, you can tell because they're rushing it because they don't know if they're going to have that next season.
Yeah, that's a great point bringing up She-Ra, and also Kipo was in a similar situation where they had Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beast on Netflix. She-Ra also on Netflix. They knew exactly how many episodes they had, and then they made it. That's probably the best possible situation. If you're not going to be an Arcane where you can figure it out as you're going because you're going to be given whatever resources you want, knowing the amount of episodes mapped out is a good approach. Last thing I want to bring up is interesting kind of thing to end on and think about. How is all of this going to apply in terms of fantasy shows apply to Avatar Studios, which is now being made as its own studio? Probably they're only making a movie to start with, but probably they're making they'll make some sort of long form show after that. That's probably a unique situation where they're going to be able to do a lot more with a lot more money than normal things. But
how would they get the money though? This is where I'm lost on that train.
Right, it's not the same as Arcane. It's more just like they know Paramount knows that or whatever CBS Viacom, they know how successful Avatar is, so they just want this to succeed for the streaming service. So they're going to put more money into it. But it's not.
But I don't trust Viacom at all.
I think it's more of a situation like. Here it's like it's not like I'm not expecting like Arcane love, like I mean, hey, I'll take it in terms of the quality if that's what you're gonna sure, I'll take it. But I don't think like when people say like, oh, why can't this be like Arcane, I think it's like there's a very scary slope where it's like, okay, if we all want everything to look like Arcane, we're gonna end up in a Disney situation where every movie looks the same. So we don't want that. Like the point is like I think they're gonna have more of a budget than normal. I mean, they know what they have in their hands, but I don't know if they're gonna have like I don't see Avatar moving suddenly into like 3D. I think it's still gonna be a hand-drawn 2D type of show. But
will they have studios like Mir or Titmouse working on it all the time or something like that?
We don't know. Again, but like that's a Hollywood studio, right? That's not. That's why
I'm wary of it.
It's not a video game studio that's trying. So that's working with a studio that they've worked with for a long time and been like, hey, let's do this. Like I can't say. Hopefully they'll have like the funds needed to put out a great show. But I think
a better situation than normal.
If anything, what Arcane's success tells them, hey, we can. If anything, it might be something where they can offer different. If like Avatar Studio is purely is not just going to make one show, but is going to make multiple things, like multiple takes, like how Marvel has different types of movies, different types of genres within their cinematic universe. If anything, it's just I could expect them to say, hey, look, this is a show made for a mature audience that was successful, very successful. I'm not saying we can make a show that looks just like this and looks with that quality, but in terms of writing, we can do something with that quality. In terms of whatever, we can make a show for a mature audience, especially for an audience that grew up with Avatar. We can make a show for those fans who watched it growing up.
I really hope, if anything, like you said, they should focus on the writing team, except for something like Avatar. Like bring as many different kinds of people into it as you can, because...
Yeah, they might be able to tell different types. I will say, based on some job postings, it's possible they're making their own animation style for Avatar Studios. I think that is in play. That might be in-house animated. I'm interested to see. I mean, it could just be a pre-prod thing. They might still outsource animation. I'm not sure yet, but interesting to see how much it looks like the original stuff. Yeah, and hopefully Arcane, says like, okay, Viacom, put even more money than you're planning to into Avatar. Like, this is your chance to get that Arcane money. This is.
Or even just like, hey, we can make a mature show. It doesn't just have to be a PG show. We can make a PG-13 show if we so please.
Yeah, that's all I want from the studio.
In an ideal world, there would be a normal Avatar Korra type show, although Korra's a little bit mature than Avatar, and then there'd also be adult shows. There'd be both.
Yeah. Like if what they want, and I'm pretty sure this is what they want, is to build a cinematic universe because everyone's trying to emulate the cinematic universe. If that's what they want, I can see this happen.
Yeah, I think that's the idea.
Because I can easily picture someone in a meeting room going, the reason Arcane is popular is because League is popular, not because the show or the quality. And you know what? There is truth to that too, because the amount of people that were hyped for it was because they were League fans. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's the only reason why Arcane is successful, but we can't undersell that aspect too. So for Avatar, we have to have faith in the Avatar fans that have been with us forever, and also have and see if we treat if we give them good content, they're gonna eat it up, and Arcane is proof of that.
Yes, hope so. Good, hoping for good things. Okay, let's transition, and if we have any other thoughts, we can bring them up as we transition to our wish list for season 2 of Arcane. There's been great restraint from the co-hosts here in terms of not talking about Piltover's finest yet, so we can probably talk about that first, which is the ship name for Vi and Kate, which I assume came from the game, but Piltover's finest, yeah. So let's do that as our first topic. What are we expecting from them from season 2? Also, like, what did season 1 do great with the couple, Aly? Like, what do you think they did great?
Don't start with me. I don't know anything about their lore.
No, I don't. Ignoring the lore, just as two characters.
In terms of what they did great, I feel like that is a big fact. Like, if you know about how they started or their dynamic in the game, that's a big factor to going into the show. And I don't really, apart from stuff I've seen online. I think the writing is done fantastically, like from how they start to where they end up. But I'm more curious to know how they actually become partners, because it's the whole. Like, I've seen fans say, like, there's, like, hypocrisy with Vi because she was like, oh, I hate enforcers. They ruined my life. And then she becomes one. So I'm curious how that leads to where they are in the game. But I don't know. For Wishlist, I just want to see more. I don't have really anything specific in mind. Obviously, we want them to kiss if you ship it. But I feel like the way they're being written, it could happen at any time and I'd be satisfied.
Okay, so you're really open to, as a big shipper of them, you're really open to whatever direction they're going to go in. Cool.
Yeah, and that's because of, like, trust in the writing?
Pretty much, honestly.
Yeah. Beatriz, what about you?
I can't wait to find out who survived the explosion, because if Caitlyn's mom dies, that's just gonna make the drama all the more juicy. But yeah, I'm just really, like, I have confidence in this writing team. I have faith in the directions that they go. So I'm not really worried necessarily about anything. Like, I think I just, like, I honestly, like, because of the quality, like, I'm fine if they don't kiss. It's fine, because I know that I'm going to get this really riveting, interesting, like, complex relationship explored between these two characters. And so, like, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know how Vi's growth and how she fits. Like, she's the one who I think needs to have, like, at the end of this season of Arcane, you learn how Jinx becomes Jinx. I'm curious to see, like, at least in the Jinx of the game and the Jinx that we end with in season 1, like, yes, there's differences in, like, personality slightly, but in terms of, like, where they're at as, like, is the same. They're kind of this, like, criminal on the run, not on the run, but, like, someone who's going to create havoc. Whereas with Vi, we're not there yet where she is in the game of where she's at in Arcane. We still haven't gotten there yet. So I'm excited to see, like, more of, like, her transformation, where she goes. With Caitlyn, it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, similarly, like, she's already there, just not quite there yet into where she is at the game. It's like, I don't know, like, how to say it, but, like, she's there. She's just working to get there, and there's a very clear path for her to show how she gets to where she gets to. Whereas with Vi, there's still a lot of, like, how do you change your mind, convince yourself to be X, Y, Z, and whatever. So she's the one who's going to make big changes. Her and Victor are the two that, to me, I'm like, there's still a lot that can be changed between you two. That there's still a lot of exploration and transformation that needs to happen with you two. And that's what I'm really excited to see. So in terms of the Caitlyn-Violet relationship, it's more of, like, how is that going to, like, I know it's going to play a huge role, but I don't know, I guess what's exciting for me is that it's not the like, sole thing that's going for them. They have so much things that they have to figure out, like, as a character. Like, their relationship just adds just this layer of complexity and nuance to their characters. So it's not, like, the sole defining thing about them. And that's what I like about it. It's like they are a fully like, they're just both these fully formed characters. And it's because they have so much on-screen chemistry, which is weird because they're not, like, real life actors. So you don't, like, the fact that you can talk about chemistry in this way is, like, really interesting. But, like, their relationship is fine. I think I have full trust in. I'm more interested in how individually they're going to go into that and how that impacts the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting from the perspective of where the individual characters are ending up from the game. Yeah, obviously, I wasn't thinking along those lines. I mean, they definitely think they have great chemistry. And I think it's different in animated stuff, but I think Lumity now has great chemistry and stuff. And with Vi and Kate, it's like a more mature relationship than a lot of the kid shows we usually get. So I think that's really appealing to people. I definitely have full faith that we are telling a romantic story. I'm not worried about that. Even though they're not explicitly together yet, I think
they're very explicitly flirting. So
and they're explicitly getting there. That's the thing. So that's why I'm like, if someone who is saying, oh, it's like not explicit enough, I'm like, you're being like, if someone's upset because it's not explicit enough, I'm like, you're intentionally ignoring what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm completely comfortable with the show, because I'm like, oh, they're doing it. Like, I don't have to worry. They're doing it.
Yeah, I think it's clear they're doing it. And I think what's impressive is that I watched the last episode. There's really they're holding on to each other at the end, but there's really not a lot of them in the last few episodes, I feel like. So it's like they focused on other things at the end while still establishing that this is a budding romance, probably. In earlier episodes, I think that's really good the way they approach that. It's hard to say when. Are they going to get together? When's without kind of speculating on overall what the show is doing, because it's in such an open-ended place right at the end of the season. But definitely, I'm always banging the table let's do romance now, especially coming off Lumity and the success of In the Owl House and the success of actually them being together during the show. I have faith we're getting there eventually. I'm just why not do it season 2? Why not whatever dating you can do in this gritty fantasy world? They're probably not going to go on a date, but they're going to be partners like they were in season 1, but also be together. I agree they could kiss at any point, right? In the heat of the moment, whenever. I'm wondering what the approach is, because usually a lot of these types of shows, again, Ruby, they really take a long time. That's kind of the default approach. So in sitcoms too, slow burn. We talked about this a ton. Slow burn, don't get together till the end of the show, right? That's kind of the default romance approach in shows. That's changing recently, but that is kind of the default still. So it's will they replicate that with this as the main couple? And in general, by the way, since we have mentioned, wonderful that there's a queer romance at as the main relationship in Arcane, which is this hugely mainstream, hugely successful show. That's really great, obviously. So I don't know. Okay, how about this? And we can bring in where are we going now and see where they would factor in. One of the main things I'm wondering about at the end of the season, will we be skipping any amount of time after season 1?
That's a good question.
Because that's that dictates everything else we're talking about. Because the show has said we can time skip, the first 3 episodes, huge time skip. I assume we're not skipping that much of amount of time again, but the show shows it's capable of it. So you have to I
feel like it could be a few months or something.
Yeah.
Because there's that trailer, that's not trailer, but whatever teaser came out for season 2. They have snippets of Kate and Vi talking about going after Jinx or something. So it might not be that much of a time skip if there is one, but I could see it happening.
But probably we could pick up right with the explosion because there's so much to get into. But we also could be okay, that would be an intense thing to start off this season 2 with. So we're gonna skip some time, deal with the ramifications in a slower manner. That would probably be more of the default way to approach it. Arcane can approach things more intensely though. So yeah, I mean, it's what if we pick up a few months from now and they can just have a conversation about what they mean to each other if they're doing some mission together, right? That's possible if it's further away. Probably if we're still in the heat of the explosion, too busy, things are happening right now. Probably not. So I think it kind of depends what we're doing. Also, it's are we ever going to skip a few years in the show? Isn't that possible? I don't know how old the characters are in League, but even so, they still could do it, right? They still could.
I wonder if they're going to go to other places.
That is
in other seasons.
I'm assuming this next season's what's going to wrap up Piltover.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying, I see.
And then whether or not, like, because the thing is, Arcane just means like the magic, right? So like it's not specific to Piltover. So I'm assuming like if there's going to be like a season 3, we're going to move to a different place.
I hope so.
Because there's so many. So like then there's so much we can do. So like or it could be like that's the end of Arcane and now we're going to have a different show with a different name, but it's still going to be the same people making it. You know, like is my assumption. But like that's like it could be like still within the Arcane time, and that's why I don't think they're gonna. I think it's gonna be more of an anthology type of thing. The first 2 seasons built over, then we move on to something else, and then they just keep going and building and stuff. Because there's so many characters. Like you mentioned, there's so many characters in this. Like this isn't even like a third of the cast of League. There's so many characters, so there's so much you can do.
Yeah, you could do Arcane : something else. I think that's probably what they do. Well, if that's interesting, if that is the approach, and it's like these are the 2 or how many ever Piltover seasons, like is Vi the main character of the next chunk of episodes? Is this a new cast completely? Is it really more of an anthology thing? If this is it for Vi and Kate in terms of speculating about their,
though. We know that's not it because they already showed us season 2 stuff, and we know that Vi.
Yeah, I mean after season 2. If season 2 is it, then they're gonna culminate them in season 2, right? Like if that's really, unless you bring them back later. So that would dictate that. That's interesting. Yeah, Beatriz, what do you like? So, do you think on that line you have other stuff from League? Do you think that would be the same show, or like basically the same show, or is this a new show?
The stuff I brought up would be like a different show because that's another like that would be like again like the thing I brought up in the outline was the Star Guardians. I'm like League, make more shows. Make one of them be the Star Guardians and give me Ari as a magic girl. I was
going to ask about her. Yes, I wondered.
She is like, my queen. Anyway, the thing is like that is a alternate universe. That's like basically the Star Guardians is a series of skins that a certain number of characters have, and it's literally like Jinx has a Star Guardian skin, and she's literally in like the Star Guardians universe. She like Vi isn't in the Star Guardians universe, at least from what we know. Like I've only like she doesn't have a skin. Like it's only been like Jinx, her pal Lux. It's like Ari and like her team. Like it's a completely different universe that just uses the character. Like it uses like bits of Jinx, like it uses her like somewhat of her personality, kind of. It uses like, but her like look is different. It just uses her name really and just the basis of her character, but it doesn't really do much else in terms of story. She's not really the same character. So it's like if they were to do a Star Guardians show, it wouldn't be under Arcane. It would probably be called Star Guardians or something. You know what I mean? So like for me, it's like Arcane. I think is going to be like I see Arcane as the OG League lore situation, and then any other kind of things that they want to do, they're free to do, would be other shows, if that makes sense. So it would be like Arcane would be like, okay, Piltover the first 2 seasons, let's do 2 seasons in somewhere else, and hey, let's go back to Piltover in season 7 because we can, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Just
like
exploring other parts of the world, not necessarily other timelines or anything. Yeah. Okay.
Where Star Guardians is just an alternate universe where we have magical girls, but it's actually like really like for mature audiences, and there's trauma and it's all sad. And I just want Ari, just give me Ari.
Are you describing Madoka? Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but it's like better because they don't look because they're not 14. They're like
adult magical girls. What is this? That's adult. Possible.
They're like
magical women,
but like they're like 17 or something. Whereas like I don't know. I just think like Ari is
a whole new
pretty.
genre. Magical women.
Give me Ari. Just come on. Give me her. I just want her.
Oh, is she like the wolf?
She's the fox girl.
No,
I know her. Okay, I know her. I know nothing about this.
They could make a KDA show, and it's just purely about the pop stars.
I did not know they were League people. I thought that was just like a thing they made up.
No, they were League people. All 4 or 5 of them.
Oh, so
Seraphine is from Piltover.
Which one is she?
Okay, you know in the song More, the most recent song, there's 5 of them instead of 4, and there's like a new member.
Maybe.
Okay, well, she's the newest member. She is like in the League, in the OG League world. She is like a famous pop singer from Piltover.
Oh, that's cool.
Like there are lines in Runeterra of Caitlyn like fangirling over her. She's like, oh my god, it's Seraphine. So yeah.
Runeterra, excuse me.
So yeah.
I've heard of that. Okay, so this is okay. Other than all the interesting stuff, but let's conclude by focusing back in on our characters. So any other specific outlooks? So Silco, dead, right?
Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah.
I could see them doing some BS if he's still alive, but I think he's
Well,
dead.
On that,
It's dead.
never mind.
What do you think? No, tell me.
No, not Silco, for another character, but we're probably going to talk about it.
Okay. So that all the council members, we don't know. Jace alive? Yes, right. Yes,
Yeah.
right.
I
Unfortunately.
really hope Mel's alive.
Mel?
I know.
I hope that she's also Solaris, so she has like a shield thing. Like, look, it's just like her outfit
That
was
has
shining.
to be her back, right? It's her
Shining.
shield.
It was why was it glowing?
That's a shield.
Oh yeah, why can I by the way, I guess I was like everything makes sense. I don't know why characters have abilities in the show. So I don't know if the show's not explored that yet. But
When you say abilities,
Yeah, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Do you
Jinx
mean, like-
moves really fast, right? Like
No, I
That
mean,
is
she's just a fast
supposedly
fighter.
like the
Yeah.
shimmer effect, I assumed.
Oh, and also the
Mm.
shimmer, yeah.
yeah, okay. So I don't know. Is this
In the
are we
game,
doing
she just has a
superheroes?
gun, I think.
Yeah, in the game she has like the gun the machine gun she has, and then the missile launcher
I
she
think
uses
I
at
think
the
she
end.
has a Ruby semblance. That's what I'm thinking.
Nice.
anyway.
No, she doesn't have she doesn't have the ruby semblance. Sorry to break it to you, but
That's what it looks like but it's
Can
it's
she
also
pick
No.
it's also hard to tell because it's so stylistic, the show, a lot of times. So
Yeah.
it's like is this like an effect or is this like reality? But okay, Aly, what characters are you particularly interested in their fate in season 2?
Definitely Victor, because I did get spoiled. I know that things
Oh,
happened to
yeah.
him.
yeah.
Well, my friend spoiled me because he was just going off. There is another character that has been like speculated that isn't dead. That's another character in the game. I don't know if we should talk
Yeah, I
but
know
I'm
exactly what
excited
you're
for
talking
that.
about.
Who else? Mel, we mentioned. Echo, I don't know if anything happens to him, but he's a precious boy and I want to see more of him.
Oh yeah, I wanted to mention Echo. In the last episode, Hermdinger,
Heimerdinger.
Hermdingers.
Heimerdinger.
He visits the fireflies, right? The
Yeah.
treehouse, and
Firelights.
He's like
Fireflies is
firelights.
The Last of Us.
Firelights. Oh god, that last one. That's confusing. He's like, oh, you did all this in one lifetime, and then we don't follow up. So I think that's a season 2 plotline. Is
Yeah.
What
it's
does
like
that even mean, though?
Echo. Well, he's like, I'm ancient. You can accomplish things in 10 years. So Echo with the Heimerdinger maybe
Yeah.
supporting them. I think that would be a plot coming up. I would love that, by the way. I'm just so interested in Echo and his team and everything with them. I think we could see a lot more from them.
There's definitely like I guess if you're gonna think of like powers, Echoes has not been shown yet.
Oh.
So
Oh my God, I'm so
like Echoes, like abilities in the game have not been explored in the show just yet. So that's definitely something that
I've been trying to avoid spoilers for him because he's my favorite.
yeah. So there's definitely like room. There's like
Interesting.
we're not done with Echo yet either. Like basically
Okay.
of like the people like most like the person most complete to their game persona is Jinx. Like Vi and Caitlyn. Jinx
What
and
about
Caitlyn.
Jace?
And Jace, sorry. Jinx, Caitlyn, and Jace, they're the closest to their game personas. Like Victor, Vi, and Echo, they're still left for the show to show us for how they grow and stuff.
I was curious about Jace because I don't care about his character, but I was curious if he is like just how he is in the game.
No, he's not exactly how he is. He's much more like in the game he is very egotistical and very self-involved to like a degree.
So
whereas
worse.
whereas in the show, like he's much more like
I care about people, kind of, but my morals are.
I think people give him a bad rap. He was trying his best and he was overwhelmed. So like,
Easily
and-
manipulated.
Yeah, I mean,
he's presented in a positive way, I think.
yeah,
Definitely.
I think people were just mad that he and Victor didn't kiss and are taking it out of Mel. And
I
don't think
was
that's
about
right.
to mention,
I
are
don't
we
think
doing
that's right.
Jason Victor
I
season
just
No,
think
2?
Mel's too good
No,
for him.
we're not.
I want to see Jason Victor. That's why I
Okay,
want to.
That's awesome.
I do
That's
too.
great, but let's not attack Mel for the sake of making
No,
that happen.
but she's too good for him. She deserves somebody.
Mel doesn't need to be with Chase. Like, come on, Mel.
No, I'm not saying that she needs to be with him. I'm saying people need to stop attacking Mel for
Are
being
people doing
getting
that? That sucks.
Oh, for being in the way of Jason.
Yeah,
Victor.
because people.
Well, that's a classic internet thing.
Yeah, that's a classic internet thing, and it was very annoying to watch. And I don't like people who are hating on Mel when I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's
Okay, I will
amazing.
say,
one of
not in
the
terms of
best
Jason Victor.
characters.
I do like Jace and Mel. I think they're good characters. I would like to see the show explore more of moral ramifications of their behaviors and the entire council and everything.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think my biggest pet peeve of the show was that like Echo was super like angry at Kate, but then I'm like, oh, you're fangirling over Heimerdinger, the one who has been in
Yeah.
power for the longest of times. Like what? But yeah.
But she's
I don't think
furry
the
and
show
adorable.
he's interesting more. Yeah, dealing with the moral ramifications of him too. I don't think the show is like a great grasp of moral ramifications for each specific character.
Oh,
From,
100%. I'm just saying, if you want more ramifications for Jace, then you're gonna also have to want him for Heimerdinger.
Oh yeah, oh sure, and he's at least he's been cast out. I think the show thinks that's him grappling. You know, I think that's where we're going. I think he's grappling with everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like in that scene I mentioned. It's not like he comes across so great. He's more just like objectively fascinated rather than empathetic or anything. So I'm worried about Echo if he goes under his wing because yeah, I don't think he's necessarily got it turned it around yet. Aly, other characters we haven't talked about.
Trying to think of anybody I missed. I mean, I like Mel's mom for
She's
multiple
great.
reasons.
Yeah, so she hints at the surrounding world outside of Piltover.
Yeah.
So that's what makes you think the show is going to explore that because they bring her in.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's all Piltover.
What's their country called or nation called?
What is it called?
I want to go there.
So she mentions they need Piltover's tech for a war against because their brother died. Her brother died.
Because he messed with somebody or something.
Yeah.
What's his name? I know exactly who it is. I'm seeing like their image in my face. What's his name?
They're in the game?
Yeah, in the game, there's like character like she name drops him, and then then everyone's like, oh, she's talking about blah 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 and stuff. What is it called? I'll look it up right now.
Other
other characters.
Savika still
Savika.
alive? She's around.
Savika without if Silco's dead.
Yeah, is she going to be Jinx's lackey now? It's an interesting.
I don't know if Jinx instantly takes over the Silco.
Probably. Well, she's
Savika
probably
her whole entire personality is that she's anti-Jinx. Like,
yeah, but I feel like Jinx might get rid of her or something.
Outcast
so
Savika
Noxus
would be really interesting.
is the place.
Noxus.
Noxus is the place where they're from.
That sounds like World of Warcraft. Okay. I mean, these are all similar, right? But it's fantasy.
And then I think it's Noxus. And then Swain, I think, is the guy that she name drops. Is the guy that she's
interesting.
that her son has made an enemy out of. I believe is Swain. I think.
Oh.
I think
You'd assume. I assume season 2 will expand on this. So start to bring this to the forefront as more of a plotline. That would be the transition point if we're getting out of Piltover. I would assume is this the stuff with Mel's mom, but you know, you could do whatever. I think we how about just Caitlyn's specific stuff. You know, we've talked about her in terms of Vi, but you know, is she done with the Enforcers?
No.
Is she done with Jace?
Probably not. Because they grew up. Well, they didn't grow up together, but like she knows him for a long time.
Are we getting a Vi and Jace team up, and Kate's okay, or are they opposing forest sides? You know.
Oh, that I don't know, but no, Caitlyn is not done.
I'm not asking like what happens in the game. I'm asking what season 2 might do with them.
Oh, I don't know. There's anything can happen
In the woods. Sorry.
What notable that Jace was ready to free the Undercity at the end. So he's being positioned pro Vi, just good. I think at the end of the season, he's probably not gonna. I mean, I don't know if there's like a conflict. Also, the ending very ironic with they were voting on to free. The Undercity, probably right as they get blown up. Too little, too late. I think, and Mel voted yes. So the show specifically showed that, by the way, to free them. So I think Jace and Mel could be separated from the council or the remains of the anti-Undercity force, if that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that'd be interesting. Who teams up? Yeah. What's going to happen with Jinx? I guess they're looking, you mentioned a teaser they're looking for. I guess that kind of makes sense. She'd get out of there.
I hope Mel doesn't die. I'm just thinking about it now.
Yeah, she's the only. It's really like
I don't care about any of the other counts.
Like honestly, that's the real question is like what happens in season 2. A lot of it depends on who survives in the council. Because like say Mel doesn't survive, do you think her mom's gonna be happy about it? No. And she's not from a country that's just gonna let that slide. Like a region that's just gonna be like, yeah, that's fine. So there's that. I think Jace and Victor are pretty safe with the plot armor situation, but it's like, what about Caitlyn's mom? If Caitlyn's mom doesn't survive, how is that going to impact Caitlyn? She suddenly becomes like literally the matriarch of her household. Like, how is that going to go? Like, there's like a lot that can happen, but it all depends on who survives that explosion and how Piltover is going to react. Like, if everyone's fine, or like if no one's fine, like how chaotic is Piltover going to get? So like really there's only so much we can say depending on who survives that explosion.
Yeah. And higher level, the big question is, was this Jinx blowing up the council room? Does this mean the entire power structure of Piltover has been turned upside down? Or was this just one kind of small act? And I think we have to see. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I also think her sending that missile is like in a way it was all about Jinx and like in a way like what happens to Piltover is like a side note, at least like in terms of like the way I see the scene. I was like, this is the start of Jinx. Like she's no longer powder. She's cemented herself as Jinx. Yeah, so I'm like curious to see like how she continues. Like, now what is Jinx gonna do? Like now that she's fully unleashed. You know? Yeah,
for sure. And the thematic reading of that last scene, it's like Jinx wasn't thinking really probably too much of the Undercity. I mean, she's got, stuff going on with her. She's reacting from what she's going through. Yeah. But the overall commentary is like, the Jinx is a product of the oppression of the Undercity. Yep. And so that is like why the Piltover is finally reeling the consequences of what happens when you take all these terrible actions that get oppressed. These children grow up, and then this is what happens. So I think that's what they're going for. I think it's very effectively kind of communicated through Jinx at the end. Aly, as we're wrapping up, anything else on your mind for season 2 and getting into your final thoughts here?
Things for season 2, just for it to come out, but also take your time with whatever you're doing.
Will it come out under May 2023?
I'd even be fine with winter 2023. Like, I'd feel like
so far away.
I'm like, I mean, as long as you put enough work and like make sure everybody gets paid and the proper amount of rest, etc. I don't care about waiting, because the end result it'll show like clearly that
this is one show people will wait for.
Yeah. I mean, I for me it applies to most things I'm into. But I mean, final thoughts. It's a good show. If you haven't watched it, you should. And if you need more stuff to get into after watching it, go watch Invincible, something like it. Castlevania, what else? I guess Final Space. I mean, even if it is comedy, it can be very serious.
It's also serious.
Just branch out. If this is the show that like you watched and you don't watch a lot of animation, please consider watching more animation that's like not, super geared towards adults or kids. Something in like the gray area.
Yeah,
I don't know what is
Infinity Train.
Sure, yeah, definitely watch Infinity Train.
Yeah, that's the best example, I think. Yeah, totally. Beatriz, final thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. I'm willing to wait as long as it takes. Take your time, make it great, and
make it gay.
Star Guardians, Ari, just give it to me, please.
You said you think season 2 will be the wrap up of Piltover?
Oh yeah, but that has nothing. Star Guardians has nothing to do with what Arcane does next. Like Star Guardians would have to be its own separate show. Okay. So make your own separate show and make Star Guardians. It's there. Just make it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we had a lot of great discussion about all this. I am very excited to see where we're going with season 2. Excited to see overall kind of ramifications of Arcane on the landscape and everything, and a lot of the things we talked about. So. Let us know what you thought of all of our deep discussion on both the season 2 and everything surrounding Arcane and circumstances. And you can leave comments wherever you're listening. Let us know I mean, we'll see if we approach Arcane again, even, season 2 a while away. I don't know, maybe we'll get teasers or stuff like that. Trailer. When's the trailer coming? Over, under, end of 2022? We'll see.
That's a good question.
Yeah, probably I could see at the end.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so there you go. Check out overlyanimated.com for all of our other podcasts. You can consider supporting us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Ryan, and thanks as well to our patron executive producers, Steve, Michael, and Phoenician. That is it for our Arcane discussion. Thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.